Well, welcome to our house, or at least what it is. We are in the house that we are in the process of building that is going to be our home for as long as we're around and God leads
Until
us
our
here.
next home.
Until our final home. But today we want to talk about the house that God planted in our hearts and that God has allowed us to be a part of building for the last 25 years, which is Crosspoint Church. People always want to know, how did this all come about? How did it get started? And it really started in my heart. I'd taken some time off just to pray and to seek God for what His will was for the rest of my life. And God put a desire in my heart. We had moved to Pearland in 1996. And this was 1998. I'd fallen in love with the town of Pearland. And God just spoke to me as clearly as He ever has and said to plant a church in Pearland, Texas. And I didn't know anything about how to plant a church. And I remember that day very vividly. Susan came home and I just told her, I think God wants us to plant a church here in Pearland. And you asked me the
My first question, just with great faith, was, who's going to pay us?
And I said, I have absolutely no idea who's going to pay us. And then you asked me a second question.
My second question was, are you sure that God has called you to plant this church?
And I told you, I have never been more sure of anything in my life.
And so then I knew that I may not have a lot of faith in you, but I had a whole lot of faith in God, and the God that was living in you, I could trust.
We started, I don't remember how many of us there were. There were probably 75 or 100 of us that started Crosspoint Church at Sablatura Middle School Cafetorium. I mean, if there's anything that'll make you want to go to church, it's a cafetorium. We met there. I think we started about 100, and we probably grew the church down to about 75, because planting a church sounds really, really cool and sexy.
It is no fun.
But it's just a lot of hard work and a lot of sweat.
Tom would leave at 6 in the morning to go get the truck and meet some guys over at the storage building.
Yeah.
The commitment and the faithfulness of people, Sundays to show up to do 2 hours worth of moving and unloading and setting up.
To have an hour service, yeah.
To have an hour service. And then to load up everything and get everything back. Sundays were not Sabbath. They were not a rest day. But you sure had some good naps in the afternoons.
They were exciting days, though.
They were exciting days.
They were absolutely exciting days. God told me plant a church, and I'm like, okay, and that was pretty much it. But as I continued to just seek God, there were churches in Pearland already. And God really laid on my heart, I don't want you just to build another church like the one down the street. I want it to be different. And we really, really built our church around loving God, around giving Him worship, but mainly about being relevant. We didn't want to just talk about things that nobody wanted to hear about. We didn't want to answer questions that no one was asking. We wanted to deal with the tough subjects of the day. And also, we wanted to reach the lost. We really built our church around reaching people that were far from God. And back in, the late 90s, early 2000s, churches were really, really thought of as places they were kind of like little ivory palaces where people that were far from God, that's the last place they wanted to walk into. And we created a church where you could absolutely come just as you are.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what you looked like. It didn't matter what you believed. It didn't matter what you you thought of church in the past.
Or Jesus.
Yeah, we didn't care.
Yeah.
We just wanted to love on you and love you to Christ and show you Christ. We wanted to do it in such a way that lost people wouldn't be turned off, and lost people would learn to love church.
One thing I remember is when you were at the church in Southeast Houston, every Monday through Thursday, you would leave to go to work in a suit. And when we planted Crosspoint, this was the mode of dress.
Well, it was a little nicer than this.
Well, it was casual.
Yeah, I had to get.
Oh, you did wear khaki pants or
with
something.
With pleats.
With
yeah,
pleats.
and I had
well,
to get,
of course, that was 2000.
I had to get those demons out of me, but that's okay.
But the whole mindset was, we want everyone to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
We want people to walk in and go, I'm at home.
There were lost people, seriously, back in those days that said, well, I don't have clothes for church. I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine Jesus going, look, you need to get some new clothes if you're gonna come to church. So we wanted to make it to where anybody could feel comfortable in any way. And that was not, it was, our motto was this: build bridges, not walls. And our big question was, is it a bridge or a wall? Is it a bridge or a wall? If it's a wall to keep people out, we don't want to have anything to do with it. Is it a bridge to allow people to come in? Then yes, let's build it. And that's been kind of the thing that has led our church for 25 years. And hopefully it still does. I think probably garden is going to go right in this area, right around in here. And then probably right back here behind these trees where like the orchard will be.
The orchard, the fruit orchard?
Yeah.
Fruit tree?
Yeah, fruit trees.
What fruit trees?
Like avocados and apricots and I don't know.
You always love to put your hands in the dirt.
I know, I do. So Crosspoint got it started in 1999, and we were able to buy 15 acres of property on Old Alvin Road and do a capital fundraising campaign and raise enough money to build a 10,000 square foot building. It was one building. It's what we know now as the factory, but in that time it was known as Crosspoint Church. That was all there was. It was the auditorium, it was the foyer, it was the kids' church, it was the nursery, it was the offices, everything. And it looked so tiny, but we were so excited.
It looked big to me.
Yeah, we were so excited to have a place that we could call
ours.
A permanent home.
Yes.
We moved into the facility and it was awesome, and it seemed big, and God really blessed our church, and we began to reach people, and we actually reached enough people that we were full. And so we did something that I'd never done in my life. We decided we'd have a second service, and that sounded crazy to me. A church with 2 services. That's been a lot of years ago. It doesn't seem weird now, but we started a second service, and God continued to bless it. Actually, ultimately started a third service, and the third service was kind of wonky, and we played around with a night service and a day service and all that kind of stuff.
And a Saturday service.
Yeah, but we knew we didn't have enough space, and so we designed a building that would fit on this property, but it really didn't fit. Mm-hmm. And we did a capital fundraising campaign again, and it failed. And we didn't raise enough money, so we couldn't build the building. And everyone was really, they thought, man, Tom's just really down. And they said, are you okay? Are you okay? And I go, yeah, I'm okay. That was just God's way of saying no. It was God's way of saying no to that. But some of the people who made commitments to that capital fundraising campaign, they went ahead and kept their commitments, and they just kept giving, and I didn't even know it. In 2010, something happened, and many of you know our story. I was riding. We were riding Harley up in the hill country, and I was on some roads that my brother-in-law, obviously, he wanted to kill me because he took me down places I had no business going. And I flipped it, and it came down on top of me, and I was pretty much crushed. I pretty much broke everything on this side of my body. I punctured my lung, I lacerated my spleen. There's a lot to the story. I won't go into it all. God, just hand was on us. We hadn't seen another person for the whole ride until then, and that guy had cell service when no one else did. Called, ambulance picked us up, realized I wasn't gonna live, so they called Life Flight, and they Life Flighted me to San Antonio. And obviously, I made it.
Hey everyone at Crosspoint, this is Pastor Tom. I just want to tell you how much I really appreciate all your prayers, and I hope that you'll keep them up. I still got a long way to go, but I appreciate you so very much. And I can't wait to be back with you. And God is really good, even in the midst of things that look really bad. Thank you. God bless you.
During that time in the hospital, the one thing that God kept saying to me, because I really thought I was going to die, especially one night. God kept saying, Tom, you're living for someday. You're always living for someday we're going to do this. Someday we're going to do that. And can you see now? I haven't promised you someday. I could have taken you out right now. If you're going to do something, then do it.
Yeah, when you had that motorcycle accident, it was a very scary time. Not knowing whether you were going to make it or not, and knowing that we still had two kids at home, and it was just a very scary time. But in the hospital, once he made it through those critical nights, I knew that God was up to something in him. He had a will and a strength to live. The fact that he was alive told me that God wasn't finished with him yet. And I knew that God was up to something. And then we realized once we got home from San Antonio after being there 10 days, that this was the next step.
There was one night when I was in the hospital, and it was the best trauma center in San Antonio, kind of like Ben Taub is here. It's a place you want to go if you're in a major trauma. You just don't want to get better there.
Yeah, only in a major trauma.
Yeah, but there was something inside me that said, I think you're going to die tonight. And as I found out later, that was the night where the doctor said, if he makes it through tonight. Right. They didn't tell me that. But it was like God asked me, do you really believe what you've been preaching and teaching and telling people? And it's just you and God, and there's no lying, and there's no getting around it. And I did some soul searching, and I said, absolutely. I believe that if I die tonight, I will be in heaven. I really don't want to die tonight because I want to see my kids grow up. I want to see my grandchildren grow up. But if this is my night, I'm fine. And that was a watermark point in my life where I knew what I was doing was not just my parents' religion. It was something that was very real, and it changed me. It made me want to reach as many people as I possibly could for Jesus, and it made me want to do it not someday, but today.
Look at the deer.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so pretty. I cannot wait to be sitting up on that porch and looking out and just watching these.
Yep. Yeah, I think I can spend time with God out here.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And we might need to put a nice swing right up there. Just
Hey,
to,
if we can find a place for a swing, we'll put a swing up there.
Well-
I'm going to have some place up there because I'm going to spend a lot of mornings out here.
oh, absolutely.
And this is, you know, you I always say you need to have a time and a place that you're going to spend with God. Well,
Yep,
morning
that
is my
appointment.
time, and that's my place right there.
Yeah. Well,
It will be prayers prayed, Bibles read, and
grandkids prayed for, Crosspoint prayed for,
and messages written on that
and
porch.
messages written.
Yes.
Yep.
And so I had to heal up. But when I came back, the very first Sunday I came back, I asked our church to sell our property and to move into a school, which is crazy. Nobody does that, but our people did it. And we put our building up for sale, and we moved into Turner High School, and we started off in this big giant 1,000-seat auditorium with one service, but we realized real quickly we weren't a one-service church, we were a two-service church. So even though it was a giant place, we had two services. We moved in, we left our facility as a church of 500 and moved into the school. And then about 3 years later, we would come out of the school, a church of 1,000. But during that time, there had been 17 acres adjacent to us that was for sale for $2.2 million. And we didn't have $2.2 million to spend on a building, much less on property. But while we were trying to sell our property, it got foreclosed upon. And the bank wanted, I don't remember how much money for it, but God just gave us real favor with the bank. And ultimately they said, we'll sell this to you for $400,000. During that time, the people that had been giving from that failed campaign had given up to that date $385,000. The bank said, we'll sell it to you for $400,000. It needs to be in cash and you need to close within a month. And I went to our church that Sunday and said, I need $15,000 and we can purchase the 17 acres adjacent to us and we'll have a permanent home there where we can build a place big enough for us. And the church gave $40,000. And that week we purchased the property and started making plans to build a new building and to get out of the school and go back and be in the building that we're in today. One of the things that was one of the greatest joys for me is that motorcycle that I flipped and I totally messed up. It got rebuilt and it got repainted and it looked awesome. And I got to ride that motorcycle on stage at Turner High School. And I got to give that motorcycle that almost took my life to the church to sell, and whatever they got for it would go toward the church. That was kind of a really exciting moment for me because it was the impetus for a lot of things happening. And then it got to be, it was something that was so bad that got to be used for something so good. But the people, David said when he was building the temple, and the people had a heart to give, and our people had a heart to give.
Very generous.
And man, we raised the funds that were to enable us to get into that. So now what used to be the main auditorium becomes the factory, and that becomes a place for students and
children.
And children.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a bunch of portables back behind the factory that was mainly where our children's ministry was going. And I mean, we just have this building and we have a debt, but we want to do things with excellence for everyone. So our church had the vision to build another building, a kids building, a state-of-the-art kids building, because we always believe that we're a next generational church. Absolutely. The generation coming before us is more important than our generation and the one coming before that. And they needed to have the best, and we built it with the idea of not only it being used on Sundays, but also it being used all during the week to provide something that's very, very needed in Pearland, which is great quality childcare. Mm-hmm. And the Next Generation Academy has become just one of the most well thought of and highly rated preschool facilities in all of the city of Pearland. And it not only cares for it, it also generates funds to help pay for the building that enables us to reach children on Sundays as well. So God's just continually done. One more thing that I'll throw in there. We opened our children's building, and all of those portables rolled out. We got rid of them. And 2 weeks later, Hurricane Harvey came. And we reached out, made a commitment to Samaritan's Purse. Samaritan's Purse came in with about 300 people, and they said, we need all those portables that just rolled out to roll back in. And so they rolled them right back in, set them right back up. They used them. Samaritan's Purse was with us for 3 years, ultimately built a building, which is the Samaritan's Purse building.
And we got to meet people from all over the world.
From all over the world.
That came to serve our community. Yes.
Yeah. And they rebuilt, I think, over 300 homes in this area. And we still have a great relationship with Samaritan's Purse. And even now, that building, it houses our foster closet, which is just, there's nothing that gives them more joy than we do. We do some great things.
We have such a heart for foster kids.
Yeah, but man, there's this really giant place in my heart and in others' hearts and in our church's hearts to just serve the foster community. Jesus said, when you've done it to the least of these, you did it to me. And we feel like foster kids who've been ripped out of their homes are the least of these. And when people want to take those kids in, we want to outfit them with everything they possibly need. And our church is so generous to give and give and give and just stock that with everything and man it and take care of foster families.
The community has been very much a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited about that. We're excited to see Isaiah 117 house going up. Next to us, it will provide just a state-of-the-art home so that the worst day in a kid's life doesn't have to be nearly so bad. Rather than going to an office and sleeping on a cot or a floor, they have a home, they have a shower, they have a bed, they have a kitchen, they have a hot meal, they have someone to read to them, they have someone there to be with them. So some great things have happened over the years.
So it's been 2 years since we've had our family at our house together. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait in this kitchen to put our long table that fits 10 people and have our family and grandkids and just all in this area. This is going to be a nice time just to get to come together around the table.
Hey, if not before, definitely Thanksgiving will be here.
Thanksgiving, yes, absolutely, will be our first opportunity to entertain. A very special friend of ours came for a funeral a few weeks ago, and he pulled me aside, and he was just amazed at the buildings on the campus and all the different the student ministry, the kids building, the auditorium, and he said that Tom had called a bunch of pastors together to pray over the church before it was ever built, and they were standing on the land, and he said the way Tom prayed, he had a vision of what is already here at that time. And I had never heard this story, and he said, Mark said, everything that Tom prayed is here. And he said he had such a special connection with God that he never doubted that this all would come to pass.
I think it would be hard to enumerate all the monumental moments that are Crosspoint. I think one that just sticks out to me because it's something that we had never done, and we had no earthly idea what was going to happen. And we did a day called Going Public. And we decided to set up a pool outside and give people an opportunity who had never been baptized to go public with their faith. And I don't know, we may have prayed for, 25 or 50 people, I don't know, but that very first time that we did Going Public, we had over 100 people go public with their faith in baptism, and I was totally blown away. And we've seen that happen, Going Public happen again and again, but that first time sticks in my heart. I think I never ever had the faith to believe that God could do anything that amazing with us, but he did, because he's God, and not because of our great faith, just because we were faithful to be obedient to him.
In here coming in here in the mornings, getting coffee, and headed out to the porch.
Yeah.
So, but another fun thing will be this study in here, because this is going to be your study. You have a lot of books from the office that we need to put up, and knowing that there will be floor to ceiling shelves in here with all those books over the years that you've collected.
Yeah, there's still work to do.
There is still work to do.
Yeah.
And just sitting right here and looking out and
and being nosy to my neighbors. That'd be awesome.
You'll be one of those neighbors.
Yeah.
But you still have a lot of things you can do in this place.
Absolutely.
In 2008, I remember you were very involved in the community in the area of the school board, and you are also senior pastor, lead pastor, and you were burning the candle from both ends. You remember that? And
I was burning the candle from several ends.
Several ends. The doctor asked you to step down from both pastoring and from the school board. And during that time period, I mean, it could have been a really rough time, but the church just surrounded you. And you came to, well, actually, it was through a video on our back porch that you said, I can't be your pastor right now. I need to get healthy. And the church, Crosspoint, was so much a family for us during that time, and just surrounded us and loved us and was there for us, prayed for us, provided for us. And it just showed to me the heart of Crosspoint. Yeah. The church went on, even without you up there on Sundays. The church went on, and we had a group of elders that came over and prayed over you. You had a staff that picked up where you couldn't move on, and they they were doing it, and it was just a beautiful picture of a family.
The church did move forward without me being there, and which gives me great confidence to be able to come to a point where this coming January I'm going to step down, and I have no fear in that. I believe that God has done some amazing things. God has done some amazing things. Not Crosspoint Church has done, but God has done some amazing things through Crosspoint Church over the last 25 years. What I also believe is that its best days are not behind it. Its best days are ahead of it. And I look forward to being a part of Crosspoint Church, not leading it, but being a part of it and watching and seeing what God is going to do with the next 25 years. Don't know if I'll be around to see the whole next 25 years, but I think God was going to do some great things, and I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to be a part of it. And I am so glad. I'm so honored that God called us 25 years ago to do this. I'm glad. I am glad that you let me say yes, and
I'm glad that you were obedient.
And I want to thank you for just being the greatest church I know of, and for the honor of being your pastor. And thank you. And we love you very much.